Welcome to today's Sales Enablement Level Up webcast series. I'm pleased to have Parker Ennis and William Chia from the product marketing team today as a follow-up from the session at Sales Kickoff about the GitLab customer journey and use cases that John Jeremiah talked about. Parker and William are going to talk specifically today about the GitLab journey and the CI use case. So without further ado, I'm going to post today's Google Notes doc in the Slack, in the Zoom channel here. And we'll kick it off to you, Parker and William.
Thank you, David. Thanks, everybody, for being here today. I'm fairly new. I joined middle of January, and I'll be covering the CI area for GitLab, and I'm really happy to be here. So feel free to reach out if you'd like to coffee chat, talk more about this after the session. William is here as well. I'm sure you're familiar with him, who's worn about every hat I think you can in the product and marketing area here. So really grateful to have him on the line, and we'll lean on him for things I may not know the answers to. So housekeeping and agenda, I know David went over some of this. About 25 minutes today, we'll overview use cases, why we're doing them, the CI use cases specifically, go into the overview and what we're working on there, and go through the page. We're going to take the handbook, First Mentality in the Spirit of GitLab, and then make sure that you understand the resources available to you, and have some time for Q&A in the end. And the other big piece, we'd like to do a mantra workshop. You're familiar with the command of the message, so we'll do like a sample of that together as a group. So we'll go ahead and get started, and I will let my screen sharing. Let's see. All right. Are we seeing the use case go-to-market screen?
Yeah, looks good, Parker.
Cool. Yeah. Will, did you want to add anything before I jump in?
No, I think it sounds good. I think if you make your browser window smaller, it'll make the text appear bigger.
Okay, yeah. I'm using my monitor. What if I zoom in?
I think that'll work too.
Is that better? Okay. Cool. So if you're not familiar,
maybe a little bit smaller for those of us with.
What about that?
Bigger. Make it huge. Pretend like I'm 50 feet away.
Pretend like he's 50 and can't read.
Or even just pretend like I'm my age and my eyes are not awesome. And then, or for other folks on the call who, yeah, there we go. That's quite a bit better. Thank you.
Okay. So if you're not familiar with the use cases and why we're doing this, it's a fairly new initiative. You know, we have a large number of features, and being a single application is very feature rich, and it's a really, really awesome selling point. But it can be difficult to synthesize that and then digest it and regurgitate it in a selling motion to kind of nail down when you're in a sales cycle what to use, what to look for, the pain points, and how to take these features and capabilities that we have and apply them and close a sale. So this use case go-to-market is going to be really, really useful. This is the overall page, and that's linked in the issue and the notes doc. And we're trying to match capabilities in the market to the buyer's journey in your selling motion. So I won't go through this in detail, but it is a really, really good resource for you to come and check out. And we're actively working on this and iterating in small chunks. This is also a good piece of this page right here, the bill of materials. And you'll see these sections up top: CI, SCM, CD, etc. And then all of the materials that are going to eventually come from this use case work that we're doing. And so right now, I believe it's SCM, CI, and then Simplified DevOps are the first three we're working on this quarter, and then more will come. So if you want to get to the individual page, which I'm about to jump into for continuous integration, you'd come up here and you'd click the CI column, and that'd be the easiest way to get there. And so CI, right? Let's start with the basics. You've probably heard CI, CI/CD, DevOps. You know, these are household names now today, and so it's unlikely that you're going to hear DevOps without hearing CI and CD together or soon after. And essentially, what it is exactly what it sounds like, right? Teams and developers are collaborating, checking in and pushing code on a regular and frequent basis, and they need a way to store, modify, and track those changes to the code base. And when they do this, they want to be able to make small incremental changes and know what's going to happen and run tests and have build pipelines and have things that go on in the background to make sure that they're validating the code that they're checking in before it gets to production. This helps them to move faster. This helps them to catch errors before they may intensify into something larger. So it really, really does streamline the workflow and make them more efficient. So development teams, when we talk about digital transformations, when we talk about trying to, every company is a software company, right? This is something that is going to be adopted fairly early on in the process, and something that's going to be very important for companies undergoing a digital transformation to start being, or start to get on that journey to deliver software better and faster. And then I think another good piece here, this is just a brief overview. As I say, you can get to this link from the other page, but these DORA metrics are awesome. And so the State of DevOps report has these outcomes, and you can attribute these to numbers, and it's factual information. It'll resonate very, very well with the developer and the technical audience, which is oftentimes the hand-on users for CI. Will, did you want to add anything to just the CI overview, or how it applies to GitLab?
Yeah, no, I think this is a good coverage. Something that Parker and I have chatted about recently, or I should even say, I've been learning from Parker. He's got a rich background in this. Is this kind of concept that there's the practice of CI, which is tool agnostic, and you could even have a cobbled together solution that doesn't use any tools. It could be totally homegrown, or you could be using a tool that is an automation tool like GitLab that is designed for the practice of continuous integration. So that might be one concept as you're talking with users and customers. When we talk about GitLab CI, we talk about CI as though it's the name of our product, but in reality, it's a DevOps practice of continuous integration. And this is the idea of you have a single repo that you're continually integrating into. So I thought that's really nicely stated in this section.
Awesome. Yeah, great point. Thank you. And of course, there's a link to GitLab CI on our page there. If you haven't checked that out, it's really, really important. But I think, as Will said, it's important to understand what CI is as a practice and what it means to development work overall, and then start to apply it to GitLab and the market capabilities, and just being able to kind of think on your feet when you're talking to potential customers and users about how it's valuable. And the other piece is that GitLab, CI is a differentiating factor as a practice with GitLab, due to the single application, due to GitLab Runner, due to these features and capabilities that we're working on and will apply to this overall in generic concept. So personas to look out for here, obviously your software developer, we call the persona Sasha, and I think that's a very, very important one. These are the problem solvers, the critical thinkers. These are the people that are typically hands-on with a CI tool and writing code daily that they want to turn into lovable features, right, and value to their customers. So very often you'll encounter a software developer in the beginning of a cycle, or when you're trying to get your foot in the door to talk to someone about CI. And these personas in the development realm also know this stuff very well. They've likely been doing it for years. They've got tons of experience in multiple programming languages. They've probably had their hands on a lot of these other DevOps tools, or even CI tools, something like Travis, CI, Jenkins, Circle CI, right? So they're probably very familiar with this space, and talking about this and having some credibility in this area will go a very, very long way. The development team lead, also crucial, very similar to a developer as far as they'll be hands-on, a mixture of bug fixing, a mixture of looking after the team, make sure that tasks are assigned, and helping to resolve issues and blockers, right? And then the DevOps engineer, which I love the DevOps roles. I think they're crucial for what we do across the board, but very much so in CI. They've got a deep understanding of their whole tool chain in an organization, and they're going to look after that software delivery lifecycle and make sure that the tools are operating, the infrastructure's there, and directly support those development teams and the leads and the developer personas that I talked about just a second ago. And they're also going to have a mixture of being able to fix code. They're going to be technical, but at the end of the day, they want to help build, test, and release that code into production. And then buyer personas, we'll be doing some more work on this. So this is certainly in an MVC form. Move down here for you. Something to take into account is that CI purchasing may not always, or I think in a lot of cases won't always require something like executive involvement, VP, or very at the highest level, or more often than not, I think you're gonna hit that development manager level, maybe director level, which is here. And John Jeremiah has put out some good new work on the buyer personas. So keep your eyes out for building out some more content around this. But the main point I wanted to get across here is that you're not always going to have a bunch of red tape to go through and a bunch of ladder steps on the ladder to go up to get CI going in an organization, whether it's something that's brand new initiative or whether it's something that is going to be thrown more resources at. Typically, you can install a CI tool or get a CI server up and running for free, minus of course the overhead or server costs, infrastructure costs, and it'll trickle up. And that adoption will spread a lot of times organically, if not through an official initiative. And you may not have to get approval until there's a need for that, right? And it's been proven out in an organization. But that's a big benefit to be able to start something. Developers and these people that are very expert or very much have expertise in this area to be able to start something like this and be a champion and grow with it and get them on our side. So I think that's really important. Pause for a second. Any questions about that before we go to the rest of this? And then Will, I wanted to give you an opportunity again. I'll kind of stop and make sure you can butt in afterwards each time. Anything from your end?
There is a question on Slack. So Cherry, do you want to chime in and voice your question?
Yes, thank you for this information. It's very helpful. We are going into a call or demo tomorrow. The challenge is that the organizations already embrace CI, they're doing CI. So this use case is very applicable to them. Okay. But sometimes when we talk through the use case, they do understand, and some of those reference points from persona and the customer are very helpful. Occasionally, we do get into the weeds where they want to say, how do we migrate our existing CI into GitLab? So how do we leverage the information provided in this use case for this type of situation?
Sure, and that's okay. Yeah, that's a great information, and thank you for the feedback. I think that's one of the tougher battles we're going to have to fight, just to be frank with you, Cherry. And I think there's going to have to be a balance of what can actually be a rip and replace in a situation like, hey, we're already doing CI. We may have years of code that's custom. We may be using other tools, like you mentioned. So how do we get off of those tools, or how do we move and be able to be in a place to adopt GitLab and GitLab CI? And I think it's going to be a combined approach. As I said, we're going to have to understand exactly what they're doing from a technical standpoint. I think collaborating with your SAs and collaborating with the product side of the house here at GitLab, which I know they're working on something like Jenkins Importer and some more technical actual tools to help with these migration efforts. And I will jot that down to think more from that point of view and from that lens to expand on for this use case information. But I do think it's going to, understand what the pain points are, where the challenges are to get off technically from what they're doing today and what exists today. And then using either a templatized approach and best practices and a combination of services and maybe a tool like an importer that we're working on once it's down the line to help them get off. But I do think it's just going to have to be a lot of collaboration and some conversations to figure out how exactly to approach something like that.
Thank you.
Yep. Will?
Yeah, I would just say that the way to think about this page and this collateral is where you are at in the sales cycle. So once you get to a conversation where they're already bought into GitLab and they're really they're excited and they want to move to it, and now they're having the discussion of how do we migrate off of our existing tooling. That's quite a bit later in the sales cycle, and we can certainly do more sales enablement on that. The way to think about this page is more in the earlier phase and in discovery, when you are going into a customer and discovering what is the challenge that they have. Is their challenge source code management? Okay, then sell them the source code management use case. Is their challenge CI? Okay, then use this CI for discovery. And this is where understanding the capabilities and the personas and how to craft a mantra, a command of the message mantra which if we have time, we'll do together here. And then if you've done all of that, then you've set up the value of GitLab CI. And then when it comes to conversations of the cost of what it takes to migrate, it's easier to justify those because you've set up the value in your discovery phase. So think of this more as a discovery phase asset. And then there's other collateral and capabilities, you know, as Parker was mentioning, we're working currently now on a Jenkins importer, but that's later in the sales cycle.
Yeah, we are in the very early sales cycle. So that's why I want to focus on the use case. Sometimes, you know, the prospects like to drill down a little bit too fast. So we need to step back and just like you said, ask why and go and look at the value, then go from there. It's the challenges that, you know, in the discovery call or early on, it tend to go down. So we need to figure out approach to bring the client back to the original question, why?
Yeah, I love that. And for the sake of time, I'm going to keep moving a little bit, but let's connect after this on Slack offline. And I would love to dig into that more with you and, you know, see how, you know, Will and I can help and just, you know, use each other as a resource there to help you out.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay, and I'll move along a little bit quicker through this so that we do have time potentially for that mantra and some more questions. But a message house, this is next for this month that I'll be working on with Will. Structure for you to have messaging and a reference point to have these conversations when you're going into them. Analyst coverage, of course, work with Joyce and Ryan and team to get what the analysts and what's said about the market from the experts in the market about CI and compare them to our capabilities and other vendors, etc. And there'll be a plan to go along with that. The links are available on this page. And then use case capabilities. I actually have an MR open that I'm working on right now for this. And this will be the practical application of what is CI in the market and what are the critical capabilities that enable CI, right? Something like, you know, how easy is it to get started? How are build and test automation included? You know, what's configuration management look like? All these high-level concepts and very important concepts of CI. What do they mean as far as GitLab features? What do they mean as far as our competitors' features? And how may these people be doing it in the organizations that we're going in and talking to? So, you know, 8 to 12 of these critical capabilities are going to be hopefully very useful for you to apply to value, return on investment, our features and capabilities, and compare that to the market to get kind of a holistic approach, a holistic understanding of what CI capabilities mean. And then top 3 differentiators, pretty cool. You're familiar with these from Command of the Message. We chose a few here. The one I think I'd like to highlight for the sake of time is the third one, you know, rapid innovation. And I think there's a lot of strength and a lot of power in the fact that we're walking the talk as far as continuous integration every day at GitLab. You know, it's not just a big part of the single application. It's not just a big part of GitLab as a product. It's also a big part of our culture and what we do and how we work every day. So I think that's really powerful. And using continuous integration to go out there and try to help our potential users and customers adopt it and use GitLab to do so is awesome. And that builds credibility and I think trust with these people that are expecting us to have some expertise and be able to guide them in that area. Competitive comparison, obviously Jenkins Circle CI, we'll be adding some more there. Proof points, Kim Locke did a really good job here on throwing out some information and quotes and real life examples of customers that are having success with GitLab and GitLab CI. So leverage these, look at them. They don't take a long time to look at, but they're very powerful and they're good to share with prospects and good to share with customers. And they span different types of GitLab, you know, tiers and plans. So there's a good mix of use cases there. Blogs, pretty self-explanatory, but some really big names here. Jaguar Land Rover, Ticketmaster, Goldman Sachs, right? These are household names. They carry a lot of weight. And they show some really, really cool metrics such as release improvement, you know, cycle times, etc. all stuff that's going to matter to those personas that we were talking about earlier, like developers, DevOps engineers, and DevOps managers. So case studies, blogs, obviously some more references. There's an SFDC report here that was added to see referenceable verified customers from the verify stage. So check that out in Salesforce. And then some more resources that we'll be building out, demo videos, integration videos, overviews, etc. Some good content here that I think is very useful for you to consume if you have some time, and goes very well with this CI use case initiative overall. So with that, Will, I'll let you kind of clean up here if you have anything else to add, and then I think for the sake of time, let's try to do a little example mantra if you're okay with that.
Yeah, I think this is a great overview of the page. Definitely as an action item from this. We try to design all of these use case pages so that it's a one-stop shop for you. So if you read the page, this is kind of the core info you need to understand and to work with your customers with this use case, and then also with links out to collateral that you can share with your customers. So I think if you give me the screen share, Parker, we will go over to the doc.
Okay, let me pause, stop share here. There we go.
And this is the part of the show where you get to participate. So yeah, what we'll do is just kind of you can open up the page for reference, this use case page, and let's go through and just build kind of what might be a sample mantra. And there's a lot of ways we can go with this. So I'm kind of curious, when you all are chatting with your customers, and they tend to have a CI problem where they're looking at new CI solutions, what are some pain points that you encounter? What's a pain point that a customer might have? And you can go ahead and just unmute yourself and share it.
I'm just share some real pain points we heard from customers. So very difficult to maintain and difficult to collaborate.
Yeah, so it can be difficult to maintain, difficult to collaborate. These are pain points of their current solution. And we might even, if you've heard of the 5 whys, right? So sometimes you might say, well, why is it difficult to maintain? When you all have chatted with customers and they say, yeah, our solution is very difficult to maintain, why is that usually the case? Or what have you seen that to be?
Yeah, we're getting down to a little bit more detail. So typically they will say they don't have a ownership to the CI, and it's managed by different groups, and current solution is not up to date. Just use example, they say too many plugins to maintain, they're all out of date. The whole pipeline is broken. They can only release twice a year, blah, blah, blah. All those impact their business. They're losing customers, they're losing market share.
Let's get there in a moment and we'll work. That's really good stuff. So yeah, so their pipeline is broken, their solution's not up to date. It's difficult to maintain because there's not one group that has ownership. So what are the negative consequences of that? I think one might be their pipelines are broken, right? They can't run their pipelines. What are some other negative consequences because of these pain points?
Yeah, I would leave others to comment. Just share some of real statement from the customers from my side.
Yeah, absolutely.
Missed release cycles.
Yeah, I've heard single point of failure as well.
Single point of failure, yeah.
So if one of their pain points is a single point of failure,
yeah, I guess.
What is the negative consequence of that?
More downtime.
Yeah, system goes down. And then, so what what would be the, yeah, and then a negative consequence would be, hey, if I have more downtime and miss my release cycles, then, um, and if I have a lot more maintenance, then I have more operational overhead. So they have all these pain points. What's the ideal state? What do they want for CI? If they could wave a magic wand and magically tomorrow, all their CI problems would be solved and they would have beautiful, wonderful working CI, what would that look like?
And the one I was told is that they're looking for full automation,
Yep.
everything built in,
Automate everything.
zero maintenance, and they can build daily.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, if they had great CI, they want everything built in, it's fully automated. They'd be able to build daily or even maybe multiple times a day. And they want zero or little maintenance.
Almost no maintenance, yes.
And then we could also have an incorporated level of workflow to help us manage and ensure some of our guardrails with a growing number of developers on the team. So this would be like, if they just had the perfect CI, they would have, easier onboarding, and a tighter workflow.
Yeah, visibility.
Self-service.
Well. Mm-hmm.
Self-service. They would have self-service.
Accessibility, right?
So if they got all these things, what would be the positive business outcomes? What would that do for the business if they could build daily?
Improve time to market.
Improve time to market.
Recognize customer value.
Yes. I'll let someone else type that. So recognize customer value. Today, if their builds are going slow and they can only release every so often, they're not getting any feedback.
Yep.
But if they could build daily and they could get that, they can get content out quickly and then they can get feedback on it quickly, they can recognize what their customer value is.
They can deliver more features.
Hey, just a quick time check. We are at time, but let's keep, for those of you who can stay, we'll keep going and finish this out. Thanks.
Yeah, this is very helpful for us. I do have one meeting tomorrow and it's right in this area.
So in the 30 seconds, I'll just say, hey, here's how we do it. We have a world-class solution for CI. And then how do we do it better? It's part of a single application. And then actually what we might even say is things like, we have scalable runners.
Yep.
But don't take our word for it. Look at Goldman Sachs. What spelling? They're building 100 times a day. Actually, I need to go look at the actual use case. I don't want to misquote it, but you can kind of see how you could do this mantra where if we start here, if immediately get on the phone and they're like, great, tell me the technical bits and bytes of how I migrate.
Yeah.
Not where we want to be. We want to upgrade the conversation, up-level the conversation, ask about their pain points,
Yep.
find out what the value to their business is, and then we can move into a discussion of selling GitLab. So I don't know, Parker, if you have any closing comments on this one.
No, well put. There is an example mantra that William and I did yesterday. It's linked in the issue and in that doc as well. So we expected and anticipated that time might be an issue with these kind of things. So please do check that out. Obviously, we're going to continue iterating on this and make it better. It's still in the early stages, and y'all's feedback is crucial to make this as good as it can be. So doors always open for feedback, and I appreciate everyone being here.
Cool. Thank you, everyone.
William, thanks so much. And thanks everybody for your participation. We'll talk to you again soon. Happy selling.
See ya.
Thank you.